you a high-achieving female entrepreneur ready to take your success to new heights? Well, our first guest specializes in helping women transform into million-dollar versions of themselves. Please welcome Franceska McCaughan. How are you today?
I am doing great, Kelly. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. Well, start right now by giving us a little bit of your background and what you're doing now.
Absolutely. So I was raised in the foster care system. I was actually taken out of my home at the age of 12. And my whole mission was just to essentially outperform my childhood trauma. And it wasn't until my mid-30s that I quickly realized that that was not going to happen. But at the same time, I had no idea of really who I was without all the accolades and shiny gold stars. And I think a lot of female entrepreneurs are driven by this idea of success, kind of unlocking the past shackles of trauma, if you will. And so I have made it now my mission as an empowerment coach to really expand women into the multi-million-dollar version of themselves.
And you created something called Goddess Millionairess brand. What is that?
When I first really thought of the idea, it was an avatar that helped me expand into who I am today. I definitely was nowhere near a goddess or a millionairess. I grew up in a home without running water, and my fridge was nearly empty all the time. And we lived on the poverty line, supported by student loans and credit cards. I think a story that a lot of people can relate to. And I just decided that if I wanted my future to be different, then I got to choose who I wanted to become. And so for me, Goddess Millionairess is the masculine and the feminine energy combined. So who I can be in my feminine when it comes to love and romance and having a family, and who I can be in my masculine when it comes to creating a legacy and a lasting impact that is going to be my signature when I'm no longer here in the world. So Goddess Millionairess is really about discovering who you are, who you came here to be before you were told what to do, and how to really create generational wealth for yourself, no matter where you're coming from in your background.
Why is it so important to address all of the trauma that you went through as you were growing up? Because I think a lot of people go through trauma, but they don't know how to confront it, or they think, oh, I'm alone in this world. But you came out of that and you developed this plan, and now you're coaching others. So why is it so crucial?
It is so important because 70% of our issues with depression or chronic pain or even substance abuse can be traced back to unresolved childhood trauma. And I think unresolved childhood trauma is actually a huge systemic issue. We see it being repeated generationally. And we are in the first time in our lives in this new paradigm where we can actively have these conversations, where we have resources at our fingertips. I mean, I can't tell you how many therapists, TikToks blew up around COVID, where we can actually start realizing that the things that we identify with, like who we think we are as a person, or the labels that we've put on ourselves, are just accepted from other people, but they're not really serving our higher self or where it is that we're going. This is the first time that we're able to say, you know what, I want to do things differently. And I always say, like, that is the beauty of being an adult, is you get to choose. You get to choose who you are, where you're going, who's coming with you. And that requires sometimes to revoke some all access passes. And that's why it's so important to really start looking at unresolved childhood trauma, because it is robbing us of genuine adult connections.
So can you tell us how you transitioned? Because there had to be a time in your life and steps that you took to get to where you are today.
You know, once I got out of, what one would say like my really crazy childhood, I went on to college. And like I mentioned before, it was all about climbing the corporate ladder. It was all about proving my self-worth. And I landed in entrepreneurship. And that is really where I found my grittiness would equal my self-worth. And it was all about the big fat bank account. And it was all about the little black book of clients and how much money and people define behind me. It was always being validated outside of myself. And it wasn't until when COVID happened in 2020, and naturally all those things were stripped away from me and from majority of us, we all went through some sort of major life transition, that I started really asking fundamental questions like, who am I? Am I a funny person? Am I a nice person? Would this person want to be friends with me if they knew that, I no longer had this to show for? And those questions really bothered me. And this is when I started deep diving into the world of personal development and human design, really trying to get to the bottom of who am I? What am I here for? What is my legacy? Surely this cannot be it, because the thing with trauma is it loves to leave its mark, and it shows up, as I mentioned before, things like depression, substance abuse, chronic pain, and also really emotional and chaotic marriages, partnerships, family cycles. So for me, I had my aha moment sitting in my closet for 2 weeks, really questioning who I was as a person and allowing myself to start getting curious and start looking more into personal development so I could reclaim that personal power without outside validation.
So what are some tools that you can help other women learn how to empower themselves?
Definitely. I think the first one is looking into your human design. I know that for a lot of people, sometimes they think these things like, we'll say astrology or the Enneagram, like it's just kind of trendy, but there's something about human design. It really is the belief of who your soul came here to be before all the conditioning of your generational trauma or society in general. And there's 5 different energy types. And so there's so many resources online right now that are free. You can literally type in human design, my human design, and learn, what is the best way that I operate in this world? What is the best way that I make decisions? And it even goes into the details of like how you're meant to eat and where you're meant to position yourself in life. For example, if you thrive more in a space with mountains versus something cozy, like it's really about learning who you are at your soul core's essence so that you can truly be in alignment with your authentic self and bring more of that into the world.
Was it difficult for you to go through all of those questions and actually look at the answers and the truthful answers that were staring back at you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the fun part of healing unresolved childhood trauma, is being confronted with all the feelings that once felt like facts and just really realizing that they're just beliefs. I mean, there was definitely several years of going through different emotional feelings. In the beginning, it was borderline anxiety attacks all the time, not feeling in control, really releasing old coping mechanisms. Then there was a crisis in my marriage because I was changing terms and conditions of who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be with someone. Then it was like, deciding what I wanted to do for my career and how I wanted to show up and how I wanted to create new boundaries for myself. So this isn't hey, go to the website and click on a link and you'll be freed. This is more of this is a great place to start to get curious, to start asking yourself some questions. And if you're feeling dissatisfied with where you're at right now in your life, then this is a huge opportunity to start just learning more about yourself. And for me, that was the key that unlocked it all. And that's why I love personal development and especially human design.
So what advice would you give to women who are looking to become that $1 million version of themselves?
I would say first and foremost, get in touch with how you're feeling and get curious of why you're feeling that way. Especially as women, we're taught so much to be nice or palatable or friendly or, just always happy-go-lucky, making things easier for other people that we really forget about ourselves. And it's not until once the kids are raised or once you finally divorce the partner that you never wanted to be with that we finally allow ourselves to kind of have this eat, pray, love moment. And the thing is that our time is not a renewable resource. Like we cannot go to a vending machine and pull out an extra 20 years, but money is a renewable resource. And I find that so many of us will value the renewable resource of money than we do actually our time. And so anyone that's feeling like, yes, this is speaking to me. I know that there's something unresolved here. I know that I'm making decisions from an unaligned place. My biggest piece of advice is really get curious about your feelings. Really start looking at, is this true? Is this a belief? Is this a piece of my identity that I still want to hold on to? And from here, it will open a whole new door of exploring who you are becoming and really releasing who it was that you used to be.
And quickly, how can folks find you and get in touch with you and learn more?
I would love to connect with you on Instagram. You can find me at Franceska.McCaughan. We'll make sure that it's in the show notes. And I have a best-selling book called Sir Thriving on Amazon, which is all about my journey with this, starting from a very horrific incident at the age of 7. So you can find that on Amazon as well.
Franceska, we really appreciate you sharing your story with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.